Why, hello there. My last video covered the Battle of Aeonia and how it fits into the broader context of the Shattering War, and it brought me my favorite kind of comment. When I'm editing a video, there are sections that I cut because they interfere with the pacing or they don't quite fit the scope of the video, and then I release the video and of course I keep getting a bunch of comments about it. But I've decided this is actually a great opportunity because I can make another video covering those topics and a few other loose ends that didn't quite work in my last video, but are interesting topics to discuss nonetheless. I would strongly encourage you to check out the last video first if you haven't for better context surrounding these topics, but the discussion will still be valuable and understandable regardless. In this video we will be discussing if Radahn attacked Leyndell, if he halted the stars to help Ranni and his carrion siblings, and more. Let's get into it.
Graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones? Ah, Godric the Golden. The twin prodigies, Miquella and Malenia. General Radahn, Praetor Rykard, Lunar Princess Ranni, willful traitors, all. Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
The question was raised, if Radahn is aligned with the Golden Order, why does Morgott call him a willful traitor along with the rest of the Shardbearers? My answer is that they can both believe in the Golden Order while disagreeing about how to resolve the Shattering War, especially when they distrust each other. Morgott is explicitly in favor of the Golden Order. His Remembrance states that Morgott took it upon himself to become the Erd Tree's protector. He loved not in return, for he was never loved, but nevertheless love it he did. Morgott took it upon himself to protect the Erd Tree, and he only trusted himself to do so. As he stated in the cutscene before, he viewed the others as pillagers, come seeking vengeance upon the Erd Tree, pillagers emboldened by the flame of ambition. As I discussed in my previous video, there was distrust among the demigods following the mysterious circumstances of the Night of Black Knives and the shattering of the Elden Ring. The words of the war monument just outside Leyndell on Altus Plateau state that the first defense of Leyndell, a sovereign alliance rots from within, traces yet remain of a bloody conspiracy. The bloody conspiracy surrounding the Night of Black Knives and the shattering of the Elden Ring rotted the sovereign alliance of the demigods, and this distrust combined with their own ambitions fueled by the great runes is the foundation of the Shattering War. After defeating Morgott, he says,
but a fool. The Erd Tree wards off all who deign approach. We are all forsaken. None may claim the title of Elden Lord. Thy deeds shall be met with failure, just as I.
It's not that he had no ambitions to become Elden Lord, but that he was warded away, or perhaps he was unable to commit a cardinal sin. It's unclear if Morgott knew that the Erd Tree needed to burn in order to clear away the thorns blocking the way inside, but in order to explore this hypothetical, let's assume he has heard the ominous prophecies mentioned in items like fire's deadly sin. That would give one of his favorite phrases, Flame of Ambition, extra dimension, if he knows that flames are the only way forward. And if this is the case, Morgott's love of the Erd Tree would not allow him to commit the first cardinal sin of the Golden Order, burning the Erd Tree. Regardless of if he knew or not, Morgott saw the lands between as forsaken by the greater will with no way forward, at least any that he found acceptable. And with the mysterious circumstance of the Knight of Black Knives and the shattering of the Elden Ring, he did not trust anyone else's motivations. So bringing this all together, Radahn and Morgott can both support the Golden Order, but that doesn't mean Morgott trusts Radahn or his motives. Radahn in particular idolized the Elden Lords and had ambitions to be like them, a flame of ambition not unlike that which Morgott also once had. However, his ambition was extinguished for him when he found the way forward barred, and he judges harshly any who would attempt to tread this path. Before we shine some more light on the mysteries of Elden Ring's lore, this is the part of the video where I agreed with BenQ to talk about the LED monitor light bar they sent me to shine light on my desk. It was one of those things where I didn't even know it existed until 6 weeks ago, and now I'm bugging my IT guy at work to look into getting them at the office because it has raised my bar on my expectations of how well lit my desk should be. That's right, I've become a lighting snob. The BenQ Screenbar Halo is in very basic terms a task light that mounts onto your monitor, which in of itself is a great way to make better use of desk space, but having it mount to the monitor also means that you have your keyboard and surrounding workspace, the area you're actually using, well lit. The light is dimmable and can change from cooler to warmer light, and it even has preferred settings you can save. I mostly stick with the auto dimming feature myself because it keeps the light perfect without tempting me to fiddle with it. The mount to the screen is this really simple weighted clamp system that isn't squeezing the monitor at all and makes it very easy to remove if you need to. And to top it all off, it has the wildest little wireless remote that turns to change all of your settings, and it's a very sleek design and I really like playing with it. So if you'd like to become a light snob like me, you can check out the BenQ Screenbar Halo in the description below. Now let's get back to the video and shine some light on if Radahn actually did attack Leyndell. The next question that was raised is, how can Radahn support the Golden Order when he attacked Leyndell in the Shattering? This question is tied up with the idea that his motivations are driven by a desire to protect his Carian family, and thus characterizes him attacking Leyndell as evidence of that motivation. I will get into the Carian bit later, but first I want to look at if Radahn attacking Leyndell is even at odds with him supporting the Golden Order, and if he even did it. I covered this in my previous video, but on a basic level, the Shattering War is a war of succession. The demigods went to war with one another because they had different ideas of who should rule and how they should rule. As I covered in the last chapter, Morgott and Radahn can both support the Golden Order while also not wanting the other one to rule. Godric the Grafted is another example of this. His claim to the throne is that he is of the Golden lineage, having descended from the first Elden Lord Godfrey. It is also clear that he intends to continue the Golden Order, yearning for the respect of his forefathers and styling himself as the Lord of all that is golden. Despite supporting the Golden Order, Morgott is not about to step aside and let Godric rule. Not only for reasons discussed previously regarding Morgott, but that Godric would be a terrible ruler and is a terrible ruler of Limgrave. And I think we actually see Morgott actively keeping Godric from ruling because I actually believe that it is Godric, not Radahn, who attacked Leyndell in the second defense. This image sparked a debate within the community over what it is showing and who is being depicted. The general consensus, at least the general consensus from those who commented on my previous video, is that the image depicts Morgott, Morgott's alter ego, and General Radahn fighting each other during the second defense of Leyndell. My buddy Smowtown has a very good video linked below exploring this image and what it might be depicting, and those are the conclusions that he reaches. While I agree with Smowtown that it likely depicts Morgott and Radahn based upon the similarity in the details of their attire and armor, there are a few details in contention with the assertion that it depicts the second defense of Leyndell. Chiefly that there are no traces of Radahn's army on the battlefield, and that conversely, there are traces and hints of Godric's forces. There is a war monument commemorating the first defense of Leyndell that is located on the Altus plateau just outside Leyndell, and then a monument for the second defense located within the outer wall of Leyndell overlooking this battlefield. Based on the placement of the monuments, it seems clear that the second defense of Leyndell was fought here. There are no enemies, corpses, or banners representing Radahn's forces present here, or even on the battlefield of the first defense for that matter. What we do find are these corpses, weapons, and banners. The corpses and the halberds are of banished knights, featured prominently in Godric's forces in Stormvale. This shield is a modified version of the marred wooden shield without the thorns, and its description states that it is a wooden shield of the Stormvale soldiers. This banner is not seen elsewhere, but the symbol bears a strong resemblance to the Stormhawk of the Stormvale sigil. In addition to this, the story trailer depicts the second defense of Leyndell in this scene, and we can see the attacking soldiers bearing the tree and beast coat of arms worn by Godric's soldiers. I do want to note that we do not find corpses or banners bearing Godric's tree and beast crest outside of the story trailer, so stating that it was Godric's forces attacking in the second defense is still somewhat speculative, but it is the most supported conclusion that I've found. So if this image is not depicting the second defense, what situation may have brought Morgott and Radahn into a battle with one another? The Knights Cavalry set tells us that the Knights Cavalry who wander the dim roads of night were once led by the fell Omen and were deliverers of death for great warriors, knights, and champions. We find the Knights Cavalry far and wide in the lands between, including Caelid. Although now they wander, they were once led by the fell Omen Morgott himself, aka the alter ego of Morgott, slaying the warriors of the Shattering. They do not have a specific enemy specified, and I believe that seeing them far and wide in the lands between is indicative of both their reach and their indiscriminate targets. My interpretation of Morgott the Fell Omen and his Knights Cavalry is that they acted as a destabilizing force during the Shattering, harassing the armies of the lands between as they campaigned. Which brings us to the fact that it would not be surprising that one such attack from the Fell Omen targeted the Redmanes, and that Morgott and Radahn clashed with one another. So at this point we have addressed why it was likely not Radahn attacking Leyndell during the second defense, and provided another explanation for Morgott and Radahn fighting. But as I stated at the start of this chapter, ultimately Radahn attacking Leyndell or not doesn't really interfere with my interpretation of Radahn's character. However, him attacking Leyndell was used as a point in favor of Radahn's motivation in the Shattering being to defend his Carrion family, which we will talk about now. It is argued that Radahn is against the Golden Order and halted the stars to halt the fates of Ranni and the other Carrions to help them. I like this idea theoretically. I love the idea of Radahn and Ranni and Rykard getting together and sticking it to the Golden Order. However, there is contradictory evidence that makes this supposition not work for me. The telescope item description states, During the age of the Erd Tree, Carrion astrology withered on the vine. The fate once written in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order. Radahn halted the movement of the stars that guided the fate of the Carrions, and he fettered the fate once written in the night skies for the Golden Order. This item is very explicit in connecting Radahn's most famous feat with the Golden Order, and to the detriment of the Carrions. And I'll be honest, one thing I haven't really understood about this theory is that I don't quite track with how halting Ranni's fate, something that explicitly in the game is preventing her from her goal, would benefit her anyways. However, a related comment a few people also pointed out is that Celia is connected with the Nox, well-known Golden Order haters, and Radahn protects it. I think that while this is true, Radahn's protection of Celia stems from it being the foundation of his legend, and that it led him to perform his greatest feat, one that is described as benefiting the Golden Order. The Starscourge Remembrance tells us that Radahn went to Celia to pursue gravity magic from an Alabaster Lord so that he could continue riding his horse Leonard. From there, he would continue to hone his skills to a level of mastery that allowed him to halt the stars. Celia was important to Radahn in that it was foundational to his legend, but what he did with the skills he learned there benefited the Golden Order, and as I covered in my last video, his fight against change. So at this point we have covered why I believe Morgott and Radahn can both support the Golden Order but not each other, and why, although I like the idea, I can't get behind the theory that Radahn attacked Leyndell and halted the stars to protect his Carrion family and get vengeance upon the Golden Order. Which brings us to the final theory I saw brought up. There is this idea that Malenia is searching for Miquella and that it brings her to Caelid because she can sense or knows that Miquella is somewhere around there because Mohgwyn Palace is directly under Caelid, which then either leads Malenia to mistakenly fight Radahn, thinking he took Miquella, or that they end up fighting because they were already at war, depending on who commented. This interpretation in general is too speculative to me, which ends up making it hard to approach because there's not a solid foundation from which this theory comes from that I can find. As mentioned in my last video, I lean toward the idea that Mohg kidnapped Miquella from the Halig Tree while Malenia was on campaign. This is also speculation, but my reasoning is that I find it hard to believe that Miquella would have been taken so easily while Malenia and her forces were at the Halig Tree, and it makes more sense to me that Mohg took advantage of an opportunity when Miquella was without his blade to steal him from the cocoon in the Halig Tree. And when Malenia finally did return, carried by her knight Finley, she was comatose and consumed by the Scarlet Rot, unable to recover without her brother's skills with unalloyed gold. This interpretation of events puts Miquella's kidnapping in the shadows, going unrealized until it was too late to react. If Miquella's kidnapping happened right under her winged helm and was the catalyst for her to leave the Halig Tree, I would think some part of that would find its way into text or dialogue, but it doesn't. And if Malenia had a means to sense Miquella or did know who was behind the kidnapping, that would be another plot point that I would think appears more explicitly. And most of all, I believe that if the Battle of Aeonia, stated in the intro and story trailer as the climax of the Shattering War, was over some misunderstanding between Radahn and Malenia regarding Miquella's disappearance, that there would be more to point toward that in items or dialogue. But there isn't, because the significance of the Battle of Aeonia is that it is the culmination of the Shattering War and the bloody and tragic events that brought the lands between to that point. That being said, if you want to try and explain this theory using some textual evidence or some very compelling environmental details, please do so in the comments. And there you have it, why I think Morgott and Radahn can bash each other's skulls in despite both supporting the Golden Order, why I don't believe Radahn is in cahoots with his Carrion siblings, and why I can't buy into the idea that Malenia has Miquella seeking radar built in to lead her to fight the wrong dude. I hope that even if you disagree with my conclusions, that presenting my own process of vetting these other ideas bolsters your own understanding and enriches your experience with the game. To borrow a phrase from the wonderful Bonfireside Chat podcast, we are given 70% of the story, and the remaining 30% is left for us to fill in with our own interpretations based on our experiences and realms of understanding. I truly think that the best part of talking about these games is that 30% that we can all share with one another and enrich the world of the game and our understanding of it. And I have more thoughts about this, but I think I'm going to save them for another video. If you enjoy Elden Ring content, please subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really does help the video reach a larger audience. And if you'd like me to finally move off of talking about Aeonia, please be sure to leave a comment with who your favorite outer god is, because I might be talking about them in my next video. Thanks for watching.